And good afternoon, everybody from South Africa, and good evening, I would say, from Australia. We are with episode 19 of Velospitty Speed Talk. Our episode is entitled The Hazard of Oz. Now, by saying hazard, I don't mean to indicate that our guest is a hazard on the track. It's a play on his nickname. And without further ado, let us introduce Harry Khouri. Harry, good evening. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Great to be on here. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. So basically, let us start with the future. You went home to Australia, and then some big news broke about next year. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I'll be, for the 2021 season, I'll be racing for the RT Motorsport team in the World Supersport 300. I think it's 8-round season, so I'm actually really looking forward to starting this new journey in my career.
All right. Now, with the obviously getting to the World Championships was one of your objectives. Was this in keeping with the timeline that you had in mind for getting to the World Championships?
Yes. Yeah, sort of. We weren't quite sure what we were going to do next year, but I was. This was sort of the best possible thing that I reckon I could do for next season. So I think we made the right step and the right timing. Don't want to really rush it too far. So I think that we've made the right decision going to the World Championship next year. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Right. Now, that is the same team as that you are with this year. Is that correct?
No, so this year I was racing for the Benyan Racing team in the IDM, right. And next year will be RT Motorsports.
All right. And how did the deal come about? Did they just see some of your results and approached you at one of the races?
So I've actually known Rob Venegor, the guy that runs the team, for the past 3 years. Yeah, so he first approached me, I think, 3 years ago, and we sort of we didn't really want to quite rush into jumping straight to IDM or World Supersport 300. So we waited a few years, and we did the IDM at the start of this for this season. And he approached me at the start of the year and said he wants me to ride for him in the World Championship. So we were like, yeah, okay, we'll do that next year. So yeah.
All right. Well, that's a great outcome. And now, of course, you had your season this year, which was a fantastic season. And now we've got a little surprise for you, because up until now that you didn't think that you would feature in your own rock music video, but you do. So let's have a look at that and then get back to how the year went.
Yep.
Jetzt der Sturz. Jetzt der Sturz von Harry Khouri im Führungskampf. Die Maschine weggeworfen. Prima Woche. Jetzt kommt Feldhaus mit dem Windschatten. Mit dem
just to come back after the crash yesterday. I'm still a little bit nervous in that corner all the way through the race, but just to come back and get on the top step, I couldn't be happier.
To the microphone. So difficult race, I think, like always a thriller. How was it for you?
Yeah, it was a pretty tough race. I wasn't sure if I was going to catch Luca at the end of the race there, because he was smart enough to get away from the group early on in the race. But I tried my best, kept my head down, and I managed to come away with the win and get him on the last lap.
How was it for you to ride in IDM on this legendary racetrack?
Oh, it's incredible. This is probably one of my favourite racetracks now. Yeah, I'm so stoked, especially because it's a MotoGP track, so it's really great.
Vorne jetzt in einer schönen, komfortablen Situation. Wir sehen das nochmal.
Well,
really
there you
cool.
go, Harry. You like that?
Yeah, it's awesome. Didn't expect any of that.
All right.
It's really
well,
good.
I'll
It's
be
really good.
putting that up on the Youth Force Racing page, that video separately, also on my YouTube and also on Instagram.
Yep.
So, and I'll send it to you so you can share it as well. So there was some
Yep.
highlights and some pretty literal low points of your season. How do you look back upon the season?
Yeah, the season actually, it was a really good experience for me. To come away with 2 wins in the podium overseas was it's an amazing achievement for me as well. I was a little bit disappointed with how the season ended, but overall I think I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. And then to come back home and win the Australian Championship, it just tops out the season. So I'm really happy to accomplish all these things this year.
Yeah, of course, you went back home and you cleaned up completely. So that was fantastic. Now, you finished, I think, 7th in the IDM Championship, but it's not really a reflection of the speed that you had, because every single race, I think bar one that you finished, you were on the podium. You had 2 wins and I think a second. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
I think.
Yeah.
I think
So,
every race. Yeah.
Go
Sorry.
ahead.
No, it's
Go ahead.
okay. I think every race this season I'm pretty sure every race we were up the front and battling for the lead, and it's just a little bit disappointing to crash out of I think it was 3 or 4 races, and I think it was out of either second or battling for the lead. So that was a little bit disappointing to do that, but yeah. So it's really good to be up the front in all those races.
Well, yeah, I don't know how good your German has developed over the year, but I do speak German, and the one crash that we showed, it says that you were crashing, fighting for the lead. Now, here's an interesting story. I read an interview with you from last year or before, maybe last year, which
Yep.
asked you which is your favorite Australian track, favorite European track, and favorite track that you have yet to ride. Now, surprisingly to me, you said your favorite Australian track is Wollongong. I don't know which one, but it's not Phillip Island.
The Ben Motorsport Park.
Yes, that's right. And then you mentioned Assen, where you picked up a victory this year. And then you mentioned your favorite dream track still yet to ride was Sachsenring, where you picked up a second and a first. So how did it feel to debut that way at the track that you were dreaming of to ride at?
Yeah, it was great to. We didn't expect that whatsoever. We did a test there before the start of the season with the team, and we got on pace pretty good. I did not expect that coming into the weekend because we had no reference or anything, so we didn't know if we were at a good pace or anything. But coming into the weekend, I just felt really good with the bike, and just to come away with those two podiums and a win was just incredible. So I'm really happy to finish that weekend that way.
Yeah, it was a sensational ride because Luca de Vleeshouwer, who we also had interviewed before, the Belgian, got away and he got up to a 1.4 second lead, which in 300 terms, I think is a runway. You know, it's a big lead to be hunting down, but you know, just bit by bit, you hunted it down. You kept your head, didn't do anything silly, made a clean pass, and then took the victory by the second smallest margin of the year, which was 0.08 of a second. Your closest one was the one that we showed in the video, which was 1/100th of a second. So how do you look back upon that hunt where you were hunting down Luca?
Yeah, midway, I think it was at the start of the race, I noticed that he started to get away, and I was getting getting caught up in battles with the second group there, and I was like, don't know if I'm going to catch him here, and I just I had to get to the front of the group and try and pull away and catch him, but I think, and I started to close in a bit, but by the end of the race I was starting to make a couple of mistakes, but then I noticed he was as well, and I just took last few laps I just put my head down and I just managed to get him. I think it was the second last lap on the last corner, and after that I just didn't look back and just tried to push as hard as I could, and I think it was 0.05 I beat him by. I'm not quite sure correctly on that, but
0.08. Yeah. And unfortunately, it seemed to me that the editors missed your actual pass because you went into the corner behind and they changed the angle and you came out in front. You know, so you did. It was dirty deeds done dirt cheap in the dark. You know, where you passed him. But it was a good race, and Luca, like you, had a bit of misfortune in the season, you know, with a technical issue, also a few crashes. He also was nominated for a wild card, but crashed very, very hard in I think in free practice, which which rang his bell a bit. But I'm sure he'll be back. Now, who of the World Championship guys, the champion is Jeffrey Bass from the Netherlands. Who of the guys had you actually ridden against? Because you had ridden in the Netherlands before.
Yeah, I think Walid Khan, he used to race in the World Championship. Angelo Luciardi, my teammate from last year, he raced in the World Championships as well. I don't think I've ridden against many of the guys from World Championships, but a lot of the guys that are actually racing in the IDM used to do CEV as well. I think Luca raced in CEV, so it was really cool to beat versus people that have been at that higher level. Right.
You mentioned alternative series, and we'll get back to that now. How is the bike? Is the bike any different that you are going to ride on next year as compared to this year?
I think IDM and the World Supersport 300 rules are quite the same, but compared to Australian rules, it's completely different. Where we've got restrictors down to, I think it's 965 RPM, and then we're not allowed to do any modifications as far as exhausts and everything. So everything's pretty much standard, the engine standard, no power commanders or anything. So we're very limited on what modifications we can do to the bike. So I think horsepower difference is like 50 horsepower and up in World Championship, and then it's like 45 horsepower in Australia.
All right. Okay. So there's a bit more boost in the World Championship. All right. Now, with the World Championship, you're gonna again get to new tracks and so on, and all the rage in the MotoGP this year was when the situation of the year kind of forced by a happy confluence of events that the circus to go to Portimao in Portugal, and everybody was raving about that track. You know, they call it a road racing motocross track with the elevation changes and almost tabletops when you hit them at MotoGP speed. So are you looking forward to also encounter that track next year?
That's actually the track that I was most looking forward to. Actually, right. I've watched the races there, and it actually looks like, and most people have said that is like that I've spoken to have said that it's the most spectacular track you'll ever ride around. So that was one of the one on the bucket list that I really wanted to do. So I'm really looking forward to that one next year.
Well, you got your Sachsenring off the bucket list with a great measure of success. So here's hoping that you can do the same at Portimao. Now, you know, you come from Australia. Now, Australia's got a massively rich history of producing top-level riders. You know, you have McDougall, you have Wayne Gardner, you have Anthony Gobert, if you want to go to the wild child side of things. You know, you've got Remy Gardner now, who's definitely made his mark. You've got Troy Bayliss. So do you feel the pressure to perform now that the eyes of your country are focused upon you and they say, "Ooh, this might be the next big thing"?
Not so much pressure. I am a bit nervous, I guess. I think next year I'll be the only Australian in the World Superbike paddock, as far as I know. But I don't think I feel any more pressure. I think I put more pressure on myself more than anything. But I don't think I feel any pressure from any of the Australians, no.
All right. Yeah, and they are a very, very supportive bunch. Now, my background is from motocross. I used to own a motocross GP team. So and also there, Australia, you know, you've got Chad Reed. I see you've got a number 22 pinned up behind you. I don't know what's the relevance there.
Oh, that's actually Alex Lowe's front fairing when he crashed at Phillip Island.
All right. Oh, Alex Lowe's. Well, one of our viewers is Jacob Ward. He's the man that runs Now Moto. A very, very, very up-to-date and informational page, and he's going to be chuffed to know all about that. Well, speaking of Alex Lowe's and crashing, you know, Cal Crutchlow has now retired, and I read this year, to my not altogether surprise, that the team had a crash budget for Cal Crutchlow which was more than my GP budget for my motocross team, you know. So that's quite a bit of something, right?
Yeah, it's so amazing, like how much money they spend.
Yeah, and then now speaking of motocross, you also had Andrew McFarlane, who was a friend, unfortunately passed away in a race in Australia. One of the true gentlemen of all time. Of motocross, and now you've got a guy that's just hitting the scene with a massive sizzle, which is Jet Lawrence in America. I mean, the guy is such a character, and he's got the stuff as well. You know, he was very close to his first Supercross victory, and he did in fact claim an outdoor victory. So have you been following him and seeing what he's been up to?
I think I watched a couple of races at the start of the year, but I don't really follow motocross so much. But I've noticed that he was doing quite well overseas, so it's really good to see that Australia's actually doing quite well in all motorsports. So it's really good to see that.
Yeah, he's a massive character, and he's got the stuff that the Americans will like, because he's atypical. Just as an example, he won the Monster Energy Supercross, which was more or less his debut. And there were names there. And then on the podium, he proceeded to ask for his donut, so he chewed up the donut. Instead of the normal US corporate thanking a list of sponsors, which is also important, but it gets to sound like a machine after a while. He chomped down on a donut, and he says, "Oh no, he's first going to eat his donut." So completely off the bracket, but he's got the goods. He's a really a good rider. Now, you being overseas, you went with your mum. Your dad stayed at home, right?
Yeah. So this year, yeah.
Yeah. So she spent the whole year with you?
Sorry?
Your mum spent the whole year with you in Europe?
Yeah. So this year, due to the coronavirus and everything, it was really hard to actually leave the country for us. So we had to get approval of the government to actually leave and go overseas and race. So it was basically too hard for us to get my dad, my mum, and my brother as well as me to go overseas. So instead, we just went, mum and I will go over, and it was sort of, if we could come home back and forwards a bit, maybe Dad would have gone over for half the season, but it was a bit too hard, so it was just Mum and I this year.
Right. You speak of your brother. How old is your brother now?
He's 19.
19, and does he ride as well?
He used to ride. Him and I used to ride all the time. I think it was about 4 years ago he broke his arm riding a bike, and now he stopped, but now he's actually racing cars.
Oh, all right. There you go. And now for next year, all things being well, will you plan for a whole family expedition to Europe?
Yeah, we were sort of hoping, because I think we got a big break in the middle of the season. There's I think a 2-month break, so we're going to see if we could either come home or they could come over and see us for a few months while there was a break in the season, maybe stay for a few rounds. But other than that, it depends on all the coronavirus stuff. Otherwise, yeah, hopefully they can come over. So, yeah.
Yeah, of course, because it's a big thing for you to hit the World Championship now. And I think seeing your progression curve, your development curve, it's not, it's feasible to think that some results are going to come. Now, I come back to a point that I made earlier on with regards to riders, and you've had this question, you told me many times, which is maybe the greatest of all times of Australians is Casey Stoner, and how many people have asked you or commented on how much you resemble him. Is that something you run across all the time?
No, surprisingly. It wasn't actually until I announced that I was racing overseas that people were commenting on Facebook going, he looks like a young Casey Stoner and everything. But before that, I don't remember anyone calling me Casey Stoner, so this is a first for me.
Right. And has Casey himself taken notice? Have you had contact with any of the established Australian riders?
No, not Casey Stoner. I've had Christopher Mullen and all that. He's commented on some of the stuff, so it's really cool to actually see the previous Australian MotoGP riders. So it was really cool to actually see the support behind that. Yeah.
Christopher Mullen is another big one. Is he still involved in some way with motorsport? Is he not?
I think he's the Australian commentator. He does all the Fox Sports live TV stuff.
Right. Yeah, and he was a very clean cut, a good ambassador. You can say maybe the anti-Gobert, maybe kind of Australian racer.
Yeah.
So you spoke about motocross. So you don't have a dirt tracking or a motocross kind of background. Although I read that your first actual bike, which wasn't a 4-wheeler, was a PW, right?
Yeah, so I never actually had a dirt bike racing background. I sort of did a lot of training on dirt bikes. I originally did start in flat track. I did that for, I think, about 6-7 years, I think. And then I never really liked racing flat track that much. It wasn't really something I enjoyed, but it wasn't until I was about 12 that I got into road bikes, and unfortunately I just found a love for that, and I took over that more.
Well, actually, all our viewers might not realize that, but 12 is actually quite a late start for racing. So you've done very, very well in a short space of time. Now, racers wanting to make their way to the top, there are two distinct roads. People go either the production route or the prototype route, which are Paka racing bikes. Was this a thought that ever came up with you? Did you make a deliberate choice on this, or is this just the way it panned out?
It was more the way it panned out. I haven't really had too much experience on Grand Prix bikes, so we thought that because we actually had offers to race in CEV this year, but due to the lack of experience that I've had on those bikes, we thought it wasn't quite the best move for us. So we chose the production route, but unfortunately, it's sort of hard to know what the best path is. I think that's what a lot of people struggle with as well for when they get into racing, is that I don't think anyone knows what the best path is. It's the hardest decision to make. So I think hopefully this is the best path for us, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, of course, you're going to need the world team. Now CEV, for most of our viewers are knowledgeable, but summer motocross, CEV is a one-make series or is a series in Spain, which is a stepping stone series. Then you have the CEV Repsol Moto3, which is the Junior World Championships. And then you have another very, very popular one-make series, which is the Red Bull Rookies Cup. And in fact, Joan Mir, the MotoGP champion of this year, is a Red Bull Rookies Cup alumnus. So it's a great stepping stone series. And, time might yet tell, those are supremely competitive series. It's not unusual to see 10 bikes like your finish that you had, the 0.01 second finish, to have the first 10, 12 bikes within a second at the finish of a race. It's extremely competitive. But as you say, it's a different path. Would you do you feel you are in the superbike lane now, or would you still look at bouncing across to MotoGP, Moto2, Moto3 side of things if opportunities arose?
Well, of course, if opportunities do come up, you would you'd question it. But I think I've thought about this a lot, and we're not sure if you either go to 600s and maybe jump across to Moto2 with or 300s to Moto3. It all depends on what offers you get, but it's quite hard to tell if it's easy to make the jump across. But it all depends on how good you are and how well you go overseas. But it all depends on those factors. So yeah.
Yeah, look, you've got a very good skill set, and I think Luca de Vleeshouwer will bear us out because he's done both, as you quite rightly said. He's done prototype bikes and production bikes, and he's had good results on that. And in fact, when I interviewed Peter Clifford, who's pretty much the organizer of the Red Bull Rookies Cup, because Luca was already quite a big boy, so he just didn't make the cut for Red Bull Rookies Cup. But Peter said he's a very talented rider, and they've had numerous examples of riders that didn't quite make it there, but then went on, to find their salvation in an alternative way. And we'll certainly watch. If let's say, okay, bearing in mind that your team is okay with this, let's say a wild card CEV ride presents itself for a race. Is that something that you would consider?
I would definitely have a look at it. I'm not sure yet, depending on I don't know. It's sort of a hard decision to make. I'm pretty sure it would definitely be something I would consider, but I don't know quite sure, considering it. Maybe if I had a little bit more experience on the bike, I'd go definitely yes, probably. But considering the lack of experience, I might second guess it maybe. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, of course, the best way of getting experience is to actually go out and do it. So in Australia, with your notoriously dangerous waters, you learn to swim quite fast when a 9-meter great white is behind you. Speaking of that, where in Australia are you from?
I'm in Sydney.
Okay, in Sydney, yeah, because pretty much everything in Oz happens at the coast, you know. So, okay, Sydney, that's as recognizable as it gets. Do you get some recognition in Australia in the motoring media for the season that's been?
How do you mean? Sorry.
Did they make a bit of a fuss of it and give you some coverage?
Oh yeah, definitely. A lot of the Australian eddies, like all the Motorcycling Australia, they gave me a lot of. They were doing lots of posts, and when I won at Aston, it was sort of a big thing when I first did it. So it was really great to see that and the support they were giving me. So it was really great to see that. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, that's always the nice thing about riders if they local. Firstly, you know, mainstream media is a lot to hope for, but firstly, if the motoring media pays attention, and then of course the local newspaper where your grandmother lives, that one's for sure going to place it, you know. So you know, because the grandmother will go there and says, "I'm not leaving before you put my grandson in here." Now, being on the coast, are you a surfer, a fisherman? What do you do off season?
We're not actually right on the beach. We're more inland, a little bit, about 2 hours from the beach. But no, I'm not actually I'm not actually a very good surfer. I'm trying to get a bit better at it. Maybe over the Christmas holidays, I'll try and see if I can get a bit better at surfing.
All right, and are there any other hobbies that you have that keep you busy? I guess it's a fair bet with a motorcyclist that you don't spend time at the library, and I don't mean this in a derogative fashion, but I have yet. No, I lie. Of all the riders I've ever worked with and ever encountered, there was one, Henry Jacoby, a GP rider, motocross, that roundly admitted that he likes reading books, you know. But what are your hobbies?
I'm not really into books. I think I usually get halfway through books and then forget to read them.
Right.
But mostly in the off season, it's a lot of cycling, and occasionally I go to the local pools and just relax. Go to the beach sometimes in the summer. I like to. I'm fortunate enough to have a quarry there where my dad works and that, and we've built a track out there. So in the off season, I go out and train with my friends on dirt bikes. So yeah, that's another thing that I do. So I'm really fortunate to have that. So yeah.
Yeah, you know, dirt bike training is in a sense important because it gives you that sense of balance and that very fine feel for traction that you don't always get on a road bike. And I think you would have seen a whole new generation of in the old times 500 GP riders with guys like Kenny Roberts, Mick Doohan, those guys that had off-road experience and that knew how to slide a bike, you know. And I mean, I don't know if you followed Mick Doohan, but that guy was fearsome, you know. There was, in the old days, there was the Honda Screamer bike, which was a fierce two-stroke. And they tamed it down by making the Big Bang bikes, which Doohan said was for not very manly riders, you know. But Doohan could come into a corner absolutely sideways and leave enough black marks for a local rider to scrape up and make tires for the next year or so, you know. So it is an important thing. What kind of dirt bikes do you ride with?
So I've got, most of the time we actually train on farm bikes and stuff. So like the little 150Fs and everything and 230s. Occasionally we'll ride our 250s and stuff around, because we got a few flat tracks around near where we are as well. So we'll get the 250s and 450s out and put proper flat track tires on them. But most of the time it's really good to train on the little bikes as well. And like if you can get up really quick times on smaller bikes, and it's a little bit easier to go a bit quicker on the faster bikes, I think.
All right, yeah, of course, that's very important, and that kind of cross training helps a lot. Also, in motocross terms, it's a great irony, and riders have discovered it. That's why you find many of the motocross riders based in Belgium, or where they're near the Dutch and the Belgian deep sand tracks, because they found that picking up their skills in deep sand conversely also helps them on the hardpack, and it's a similar-ish kind of thing here. But in any case, I know it's getting on for late evening there. It was great to finally tie you down. I know that was you had a problem getting out of Europe and everything. Just tell us, in your heart of hearts, what would your expectations be for next year for your World Championship debut?
Expectations, I would definitely, it's probably more of a goal, but I would like to be probably in the top 10 or battling in the points. So, of course, I definitely want to be challenging for the wins like I was doing this year, but unfortunately, new tracks and new riders to experience, and getting that experience with them, it might not be a possibility. But those, if I can finish in the top 10 and top 15 or something, I'd be more than happy.
Yeah, and always the first ice to crack is to get yourself on the scoreboard, because then for all eternity you've been in the World Championship. People will see it, even when the aliens come in 4,000 years and dig up the archives, they'll say, oh yeah, this Australian made it into the World Championships. And now to put this deal together, I know there's a lot that goes into it, to find sponsors and get everything, and it's not a simple thing. How did you go about it, and who helped you a lot with that?
For sponsors?
Yeah, for sponsors and to get your contract done and so on. So
I've had a lot of sponsors that have helped me out since pretty much the start of my road bike career. I've got a lot of friends. I think New South Wales Helicopters, they've helped me all the way from the start when I raced on 150 GP Juniors in Australia. And companies like even Excite Motorsports, they're a Yamaha dealer near me, and they've supported me even when I've been riding a Kawasaki. So it's really great to have support like those guys there. It's been incredible with them, just them supporting me the whole way through it. And then Kabuto Helmets, they've got heaps up here, but they've sponsored me, and they're going to be, and I'll be contracted to them for next season. So those guys have been absolutely incredible. When I break a helmet or something, they're always there, give me a new one. So it's really great to have all these people come together and make all this possible, because I don't think I'd be here without them.
Yeah, well, it's great. I like that idea of a let's say rival brand sponsoring you. I actually did that as well when to here and there to help riders. Before I went to the World Championships here in South Africa, with riders, and in fact, that is how one of the riders that eventually became a world champion came to my team the year after that. We were in Honda with our team, but they were on Yamaha. But in any case, so that's that. Harry, it's been absolutely great. And you just had another shout out directly from Jacob Ward. He's the owner of Now Moto. Do check out that page. They are always super quick on the news, and it's pretty always pretty accurate. And he says he's going to post the video on his site as well. Your followers can re-watch the video on our Youth Force Racing page, and also on my YouTube, and I'll be posting links for that. So thank you so much for joining us, and we wish you from our whole group only the very best for next year.
Yeah, thanks, mate. It was really great to be on here, and I look forward to the next one.
All right. Well, that is it for our unusual episode, a sunshine episode for South Africa and Europe. At least Harry and I are in the same hemisphere. Oh, by the way, speaking of that, which Australian sports do you follow? Are you rugby, cricket, that kind of thing? Is it something that you follow?
No, surprisingly, I'm probably the only Australian that doesn't follow any ball sports. It's mostly always wheels.
All right. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing that will still get you on my Christmas card list. So with that, with young Harry Khouri, the Hazard of Oz, it's been a most delightful interview. Thank you very much, Harry. And from me, Tina Snell, we're signing out. look out for some more very, very exciting interviews to come. Top motocrosser, and Harry, interestingly for you, a very, very prominent young road racer that is making his first full Moto3 season next year, but who on his first wildcard ride in a Moto3 GP finished third. So that's a pretty decent start, you know. So with that, it is me, Tina Snell, signing out. Keep a lookout on the page for what interviews are coming up. And thanks, Harry, and we'll speak later on.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, mate. See ya.